As of this point, we've talked about two different types of macromolecules. We've spoke about carbohydrates and we spoke about lipids. You should at this point be pretty familiar with those. If you're still a little uncertain about the carbohydrates and lipids, you can go back and rewatch some of the videos to refresh yourself on that. Today we're going to be looking at proteins, which is a third type of macromolecule. Looking at proteins here. Proteins are the most varied of the carbon-based molecules in organisms. Here it's saying carbon-based molecules in organisms and the most varied. Carbon-based molecules, that is another name for macromolecules. You will hear me say carbon-based molecules, and I'll be talking about carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, the nucleic acids. All of the macromolecules are also called carbon-based molecules. I'm actually surprised this is the first time that this has come up. In movement, eyesight, or digestion, proteins are at work. A protein is a polymer made up of monomers called amino acids. So, there are those words again, polymer and monomer. Keep in mind that monomers are individual units that build larger units. The larger completed unit would be a polymer. Amino acids are molecules that contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sometimes sulfur. A few more overlaps we have with the other macromolecules. There's carbon. Carbon's there again. So is hydrogen. So is oxygen. We do have some new ones though. We have nitrogen and sulfur. But we do have some similarities with the carbohydrates as well as the lipids. Moving on. Organisms use 20 different amino acids to build proteins. Your body can make 12 of the amino acids. The others come from the foods you eat, such as meat, beans, and nuts. And this is part of the reason why we want to have a well-balanced diet, guys. Our body can only make 12 of those 20 amino acids that we need. So we have to get the other 8 from other foods. And they're not all found in the same foods. You have to eat a variety of foods in order to get them. Looking at figure 2.15 to see the amino acid serine. All amino acids have similar structures. As figure 2.16 shows, each amino acid monomer has a carbon atom that is bonded to 4 other parts. 3 of these parts are the same in every amino acid. A hydrogen atom, an amino group, which is NH2, that's an amino group, and a carboxyl group, which is COOH. Amino acids differ only in their side group, or the R group. Amino acids form covalent bonds called peptide bonds with each other. The bonds form between the amino group of one amino acid and the carboxyl group of another amino acid. Through peptide bonds, amino acids are linked into chains called polypeptides. A protein is one or more polypeptides. So looking at some of the images on our screen now, we can see an amino acid right here. This is a sample one. And it said in here that every amino acid contains an amino group, NH2. We see that right here. N and 2 H's, there's our amino group. It says that they contain a carboxyl group, COOH. That's over here, COOH. We can see 2 lines between this carbon and this oxygen. That means that there is a double bond right there. Right here there's a single line, so that's a single bond. Then we have the hydrogen atom. Well, here's our hydrogen atom right here. It's bonded to the carbon. And then the 4th group is the R group. It's called the R group. It does vary. It is different for every single one of the 20 amino acids. The NH2, the COOH, and the hydrogen, that is the same in all 20 amino acids. This R group, it does change. As we change this group from what we have here to say something else, it could result in different properties of the amino acid as a whole. For example, some amino acids, depending on their R group here, will be polar, others will be nonpolar. Remember that nonpolar molecules are ones that mix well with water. Nonpolars are molecules that do not mix with water. So amino acids are monomers, and we know that monomers build polymers. So let's see how amino acids build polymers, or in this case, proteins. That's what they build. They form peptide bonds between two amino acids. We can see this image here shows a little bit closer view of the amino group NH2. Looks like the H group was cut off. Think back to some of the bonds that we've been working on in class. We've been cutting off an H group from one molecule and an OH group from another molecule and release water, right? Well, if we look right here, we cut off from one amino acid one of the H's, one remains, and we have on this one here a CO group. So there's a CO. Looks like that OH group might have been cut off in the formation of this peptide bond. So in the formation of these bonds, water is also released. So it's another form of dehydration, which is another similarity it has between the carbohydrates and the lipids. So as you can see, there's a bunch of similarities between all three of these macromolecules. Here we have a longer polymer or a longer protein. Looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 amino acids. So we have 6 monomers, and we have 1 polymer, the polymer being a protein. Alright, so we're going to recap on this, and this is where you're going to want to have something to write with. For starters, we're looking at macromolecules, and in this case, we are looking at proteins. Proteins is one of the macromolecules. So what are some things we need to know? First off, proteins are made from amino acids, and amino acids are monomers. 2, they are found in meats, dairy products. We'll stop right there. Found in meats and dairy products. 3, they contain hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, and sometimes sulfur. 4, all amino acids have an amino group, and that was the NH2. A hydrogen atom and a carboxyl group. Carboxyl is COOH. And an R group. And remember that it's the R group that creates a difference between the amino acids. The NH2 hydrogen atom and carboxyl group are exactly the same. 5. Their purpose? To repair cells. You typically hear of people who are in weight training, use some kind of protein supplement or protein shake, and that's because as they work their muscles out, they actually rip their muscles, which is why part of the reason why people get sore after they lift is because the cells in their muscles have actually torn slightly. Proteins help replace and repair that muscle tissue, and as it replaces it, the muscle actually is a little bit larger now. 6. Amino acids are held together by peptide bonds. Peptide bonds, guys, that's a huge deal. You'll probably end up seeing that on your final exam for this class. In fact, you might even want to make note that a protein is a polypeptide. That's something that you probably should take note on as well. And I think that about wraps it up as far as the need-to-knows for the proteins. Make sure you got these jotted down. Tomorrow when you get to class, we're going to be looking at nucleic acids, if we have not already looked at that already. And you'll be using your notes right here, as well as your notes from the lipids, and the notes from the carbohydrates to put together a concept map, which will be quite challenging to organize information if you don't have information to organize. So if you do not have that stuff, make sure you come to class Thursday with the first 2 videos on the website viewed, so that you can be successful with that.